Alright, hey, what's going on everyone? This is JoeYoursTruly back with a video. Today I'm doing a VOD review session, but I'm actually doing that live right now with Wolverine. He's very nice and provide me with a VOD review of a game for us to go through. Say hello, Mr. Bearded Wolverine.
Hello, welcome everybody. Excited to be here.
Yep, so essentially this is going to be a offlane kind of VOD review. He's playing Gruxy Boy right here, and it's going to be going against the Sevard kind of matchup. So this is actually a kind of hard matchup for you, Bearded, because I consider Grux to actually be one of those offlaners that actually struggles a lot as you kind of go up in the high MMR. He's a great kind of intro character to get your kind of feet in the door, but as you go against more and more experienced players, it becomes much harder to actually perform well with him. And so in this laning phase, I kind of was watching the server, and he knew kind of exactly how to deal with you, because not only how he's kind of play around with your trades, but also the irons he was building, he knows exactly what to build to kind of shut you down. So a lot of this early game, a lot of this VOD review is we're gonna be going over the early game, because I did saw a lot of stuff like in the first 3 lows, for example, where I think you could have done a little bit better. Because the thing with Grux offlane is you kind of play him to have a lot of pressure in lane. So, because he's one of the champions that takes really good long trades that no other heroes can like exactly match right here. So you're doing a good job, you're doing the standard stuff, but hitting the back minions right here. But the one thing I'm always gonna point out is I want you to, in this matchup in particular, Grux, Sevard is gonna be one of those heroes that's gonna outscale you really hard, especially you as kind of a Grux. So this is kind of like the first 5 or so 6 minutes. That's your best time for you to try to get any kind of lead on the Sevard, because going even with Sevard means you lost lane essentially. Because Sevard is gonna outscale you, he's gonna build items to counter you. It's gonna be really hard to do stuff because like in these first 2 waves we see that you're playing kind of passive. You're kind of scared to not take any good trades with him, because you're able to like clear the wave faster than the Sevard. So like you clear the range minions, but then you just went to the melee minions, right? And so the best time to go for trades in this lane is once you kind of get minion wave advantage. And see, like right here, you keep going, you're doing a good job. You're prioritizing the range minions first. So you cleared some of that out. And look at your wave state right here. You have a better wave state than your Sevard right here. And he's standing right behind your minions. So this would have been a really good opportunity for you to initiate a long trade. Because if the Sevard hits you back, then he's gonna get the aggro from your minions. He's gonna take a lot of damage from minions and your damage, right?
Okay.
So like right here, you see you have a very distinct minion wave advantage right there, and that's the one thing that kind of knows is that you're not capitalizing on your minion wave state. You see, even right here, you're kind of focusing the cannon. Cannons do give a lot of gold, but you saw how much health you lost because you just ignored the Sevard hitting you. And the reason why he didn't take that much damage because you only have a cannon minion hitting him. So that was a good on him part, that he realized that there weren't any minions around to really kind of punish him, so he just went on the long trade that you just kind of ignored, right?
Okay.
So I do like what you're doing right here, 100%. Because even though you don't exactly have a minion wave in your favor, you saw you got a really good trade right there. And that's what you kind of want to do. Is if someone that's gonna get on top of you, you have 2 options. You either just dash out immediately, or you have to just trade back. Because them hitting you for free and you just walking away doing nothing means they got a free trade on you. And that free trade, that trade you initiate with the Sevard was actually like really in favor of you, because like I said, Grux is a really great champion early, especially against the Sevard. He just tend to like kind of fall off pretty hard, right? So if you were playing a lot more aggressive early on that lane with that and you initiate that trade with the Sevard, he could have died right there. You saw how low he got it right there. Yeah. But so that's like one thing I want you to keep in mind is if you want to play Grux offlane, you have to realize that you're sort of on a time limit, in the sense that in most matchups you have to try to like take the you have to try to go for trades as much as you can early on, because that's when you're most in favor against like a Shimby, against a Countess, against a Seal. Like there's a lot of heroes Grux is matched against where he's in favor early game, and you just need to like try and get better at taking advantage of that. I'm gonna actually go back here really quick. So when you want to use your Q, whenever I use Q with Grux, I treat the Q on Grux more as a wave kind of clear tool. It's really good for helping you initiate trades, but Grux's ability does cost a lot of mana most of the time, so whenever you use something like a Q that costs a lot of mana, you want to be a lot more, you want to try to be as efficient as you can. So what you should have done right here, you should have sat right here in the spot, so that way if you want to kill the Sidewalk, you can kill him and the entire minion wave. So you can kill, you can on-B, and then what that does is, one of the strengths that Gruxes have is that they're very good at resetting the wave to their favor. Because a lot of heroes, once they have a big wave on you, it'd be hard to walk up without getting punished, right? But whereas Grux, he can kill an entire wave on it and clear almost instantly. So I think if you caught more than minion wave right here, let's see, like I think if you caught more than minion wave, you will be able to like get much better clear. Because I think you see right here that you kill it. I don't think you on B right there at all.
No, I
and yeah, so you saw like what happened. Your whole purpose of your kill is you want to use the clear waves, and you didn't even wave to really clear the wave that well right there.
Yep.
So some parts of the video I might speed up or slow down just to kind of make sure we're kind of going to the highlights of the video I'm seeing. It's not a bad back to go right there, but I think you could have actually held on a little bit longer, because you see Sidewalk right here. He's very low on the mana and low on HP. I mean, you're also low on the HP and mana as well. But technically, since you're so close to your tower, you could like just wait for catch the wave and kind of farm that wave out. Because as long as you're like, if you're like low on HP and mana and you push up way up here, then yeah, take it back. But if you're low on HP and mana and you push to your tower, the only thing to be worried about is the tower dive. But other than that, you're actually kind of safe to kind of just wait for the Sidewalk to push the wave out and just catch that wave before he resets.
Right, and with him being low mana and low HP, he wasn't going to tower dive me.
Yeah, he was not going to tower dive you. He doesn't have the resources to do so. The only thing you have to worry about is a mid lane or jungle kind of gank at that point. But like, it'll be obvious where they're coming from because you're seeing right here and they're coming through these two fog walls.
Right.
Alright, so here you have a minion wave advantage, right? You can fight the Sidewalk and your minion wave advantage and take a really nice trade right here. But I think you did something not quite that. Here, we'll see right here. So yeah, so what I would have done in that situation is, because you see what he did, like he had a big minion wave advantage, but he was able to kind of clear that instantly. So what I would have done is I would like heal the entire wave in him and on B, because him like eating the wave like that was kind of obvious that he was going to just clear to reset the wave and whatnot. So you kind of have to try your best to match that.
Okay.
Because another reason is because I'm not sure if you pay attention to items. This is one thing that really is helpful in the offlane, is you always pay attention to what items your offlaner has. Because I think in this specific scenario, I think you almost got close to dying. And I don't know if you realize he had Brimstone or not, because that's kind of a power spike for tanks for doing a lot of early game damage and wave management. So he's able to clear that wave really fast because he had Brimstone, and you took a lot of like damage because of like Brimstone and all his abilities coming online.
Okay.
So nice Q usage right there, kind of get a trade on him right there, and you also use it to help kind of clear that wave a little bit. So the one thing that you have to realize as an offlaner is you'll need to realize what threshold your HP will need to be at for them to be able to go in for like the kill, right? Because your HP is getting low enough to the point where Sidewalk can go for an E route, dash into you, kill you, and use your ultimate and finish you off. And I think he tried to do that, and you were able to kind of blink out last second. So I'm gonna speed up a little bit to what I mean. And I do like how you kind of sitting back, because yeah, you do realize that you stepping up is very risky, because he can root you, he's gonna displace you. This is what I mean by the Grux is gonna fall behind in this matchup. Is essentially the Sedwar is going to have so much control on what fights he wants to take and what fights he does not want to take. So you being low in HP and him being high in HP means that if you walk too far away from your tower, he could honestly just all in on you. So it's smart for you to kind of sit back, wait for the wave to catch. And this is what I mean, like you were within R&B dash range, so now initiating a trade on you right here. And that's kind of like what I mean by the HP threshold, because he didn't use like you look at your HP pool. That's like more than enough, like kind of being the below HP for Sedwar just to E and kill you, like just really simple, straightforward kind of thing. And that's just kind of what happened right there. Because you gotta so that's kind of like the one thing is you need to realize the kind of skills and what abilities your offlaner has. Because you actually being right here in this spot puts you at risk, because the E can go pretty far close to the tower. So if you want to be hitting these minions, you have to realize that Sedwar's gonna be looking to root you and just go for the kill because of how low you are. And that's exactly what he did. He saw that you're trying to hit the cannon and he just went in and just kill you and got a kill right there.
Makes sense.
And actually, while we wait for you to respawn, I'm gonna look at your items real quick because it's another thing I noticed. So in this kind of offlane kind of game, usually you have one core item you pretty much kind of go most of the time, and then your second and third item are essentially kind of like counter items to your enemy offlaner, because the one opponent you're probably gonna be facing the most throughout the entire game is the person in the lane in this 1v1, right? So ideally what you want to do is you want to be building items that can be really beneficial against this Sedwar, right? So like against the Sedwar, something like a magical defense item is gonna be really great, right? But instead it looks like you were going for a Citadel angle. I'm actually kind of curious, do you remember the thought process of why you wanted to go Citadel in this game?
It was just a build that Windu gave me beforehand, and I just wasn't. It wasn't a build that was set up for anybody. Like it was just a hey, here's a build, and that's just the build I went with.
Okay.
There's no order for it.
Because initially I could see some of the thought process behind it. Because Citadel has that armor shred, right? And you are against a Sedwar and Rampage, so it makes sense that building a lot of physical armor, and it makes sense that hey, if I can shred that armor, that's great, right? But that physical armor you got from building Citadel does nothing against the Sedwar. So when you died that first death earlier on, that could have maybe been prevented if you went a different kind of build path, where instead of being like the physical armor, you build like magical armor instead.
Right.
But in this matchup, specifically for Grux versus Sedwar, what I actually recommend is going for Basilisk first, and then just like a Foreham or Leviathan second. Because usually in Grux offlane, his core item is almost always gonna be Bonesaw. It's just because that's just enabled him the most, right? But in this particular matchup against the Sedwar, since he's gonna be building a lot of armor and he's gonna get a ton of HP just because he's Sedwar, Basilisk is actually gonna be the better item to go against him in this matchup. I think that's like one of the only matchups you actually go Basilisk in. Like even against like a Seal Richter, you still go Bonesaw for the most part.
Okay. Now why Basilisk again?
Because Basilisk will have the I'm gonna pause real quick. Because Basilisk have the armor shred in it, and the passive also it deals percent HP. So you gain like 2 for 1. He's building physical armor against you, he's building a ton of HP, so you can shred some of that armor and you can do some HP damage. Because Bonesaw doesn't do any of that, it just helps you attack faster, right? And so if against someone that has a lot of HP and a lot of armor, Bonesaw is not going to be as efficient as the first item. It's not bad, but Basilisk tends to be better in this matchup specifically.
No, that's good information. That's perfect.
So actually, I want to go back a little bit because this is the one thing that I wanted to give you a quick input on. So, okay, so you decided to go for the invade right here, right? Because you kind of realize, hey, it's kind of hard to link against a Sedwar. Maybe I can steal some camps so I can kind of farm and whatnot while trying to stay kind of safe against the Sedwar, right? The only issue is when you want to do that, you want to make sure you also pay attention to your wave right here. Because it's taking you a while to take that triple camp. And while you're trying to do that, instead of just shoving your lane out, because he doesn't see you in the lane, he's gonna try to push this wave into the tower and try to make you lose all that CS by punishing you for not being in lane. And so what happens is you finish the camp, but the wave is almost about to crash into this tower. So yeah, this wave is gonna crash. You're gonna miss all these minions. So even though you took a triple camp right there, end up not really, you're not getting much out of it because you lost all this wave. That's about sort of equivalent-ish to that triple camp you're taking. I don't know the hard kind of math there, but it's that end up not being that beneficial to you. And because of that, your whole wave is back here, so you walking back to lane, it was actually really risky because you got caught out by the Zevlok right here. So actually, I want to take a look again how you passed, because I think you could have passed a little bit differently. Okay, so I think you should like maybe try to pass towards the jungle, because the wave is obviously pushing the tower. Zevlok can be anywhere on lane, and you're not comfortable with fighting against him.
I saw him there though. I remember that. I remember that actual situation. I remember that he saw me like, oh man, I have to get out of here now.
Okay.
He's gonna start pushing me. So that was my reason of going as far as I went, like I did there. I was trying to stay away from him.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see that. Now, like, you still see him, and you know he's gonna go back in lane. Could you maybe wait a couple more seconds, wait for him to kind of show face in lane, and then you can still kind of weave around through this path and go back to your tower that way?
Yo, definitely could have done that. Definitely could have done that.
Okay.
Or I could have just backed right there when he started walking away.
Yeah, because you were technically kind of getting low on the mana HP, so it wouldn't be that bad of a bet. Now it's not the most ideal because you're gonna be missing. You missed the wave already at question here, and you're gonna miss this wave right here.
Right.
So that's the big thing about Offlane, is a lot of it actually really comes down to wave management, because what I mean by that is even in really bad matchups, you can win lane purely just having good wave management. Because because minions does hurt a lot currently in this meta, they contribute a lot of damage early on. So what you can do is you just abuse the fact that minions does a lot of damage. You try to set the wave to where you have more minions than they do, and you just initiate a trade. And most of the time you can get a very favorable trade, and be able to really kind of start to slowly win lane through that way, right? And that's what I mean by I wish you had gone a little bit more aggressive against the Zevlok earlier, because you have a mini wave advantage multiple times, but you were not able to take advantage right there.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the ADC mindset that I have going into this, is the trying to keep, like, I don't want to attack. I want to clear my minions and use the minions that clear their minions and use my minions to do attacks. So I'm sitting there trying to get rid of all their minions, and that's what I was doing here, instead of just like knowing that hey, I'm kind of tanky, I can take some damage, and even though I have minion advantage, the 3 or 4 minions I had, I was like trying to get rid of all of them because I don't want to take any damage.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. Like, a big part of any lane is trying to like make sure you keep up on the farm, because there's no point being aggressive lane if you can't even like CS well, right? So you don't. It's not necessarily about the kills. It's about making sure you can outfarm your opponent, get eye advantage, and you can win lane through that way, right? So a big kind of like the art of like Offlane a lot of times is you want to try revamp your abilities through like farming CS, because like let's say you just cleared one range minion and one melee range, right? So during that like couple seconds before another minion gets low enough to kind of get executed for you, what you could be doing is you could go for trades within kind of weaving in and out CSing, if that makes sense. So here I'll just use this wave example. So you're hitting it, right? So right here, you see how this like these minions are kind of full of HP, right? This can be like in this earlier scenario, this could be a great opportunity for you to go for a quick trade and server, like an auto on-B auto, and by the time you finish that trade, you can go back and last hit this one minion that's about to be killed next. And something like that, if you can get really good with not only CSing well, but being able to CS well in between your trading and lane, that's gonna really help kind of accelerate. Because certain heroes, they can be fine playing very passive lane. Like Sedvark is one of the champions. Well, he doesn't need to like necessarily pressure the off lane. He can just focus solely on farming, and he can win lane just through scaling, right?
Okay.
Where someone like, if you want to play like a Grux, a Crunch, a Fame Mao, you want to be trying to pressure your opponent a lot early on, but you also need to make sure you're farming well, in a sense. So, you've done a decent job prioritizing like CSing. The only issue is, in this matchup, you can't go even with the Sedvark, because he just simply outscales you really hard.
For sure.
And I mean, obviously right now, you're sort of losing, just because you just kind of die a couple times early, and now Sedvark is snowballing. So Sedvark is snowballing, and he's just someone that just outscales anyone in this game right now. Because yeah, he's building purely physical armor against you, 5 blocks of normal damage, chain of guard, to kind of shut down your healing, and just be very determinant of your attacks right there. That's why I kind of recommend Basilisk, because Basilisk can help shred through his armor, and the bonus like HP damage will really help like tank through the Sedvark having a ton of HP pool. So going back on that,
Working well against a Rampage as well.
yeah, it would too. It will 100%, because Rampage is the same thing. He's have a lot of HP and a lot of physical armor.
That's good information.
So kind of going back to how I would build your items, because I was touching on that earlier. After Basilisk, what I would do against the Sedvark is I will build something like Leviathan, because Leviathan and Voidhelm are both great magical defense items in this current meta. Voidhelm obviously it's just really good for having a ton of HP regen against the bonus magical armor, the more magical damage you take, right? And so the reason why I'm saying Leviathan though instead of Voidhelm is because usually against like a Grux or Crunch, building Tainted Guard is one of the best items to shut them down, and Tainted Guard is gonna reduce your healing throughout. So it actually counts Voidhelm. Like Voidhelm is based on like gain more like HP regen, so like a Tainted Guard will actually cut that healing. So going like something like Tainted Guard second would be a better magical defense item against the Sedvark, because you get just purely like damage mitigation like 12%. That's like really huge for being able to really kind of reduce like this damage this Sedvark's outputting against you.
Okay. Now when you're saying Leviathan, are you mean?
Oh no, like Tainted, yeah, Tainted Batch. Sorry, yeah, you remember.
That's,
yeah.
I was thinking, I was like, I want to make sure, because I was like, I know they said in the patch notes they were gonna bring Leviathan back eventually, but this is what it is.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm so because I remember Leviathan and yeah, I sometimes just get the mix up still, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you for the clarification.
No problem.
But yeah, that's just kind of a general rule of thumb. And just kind of any offlane, you build your core item first, and unless you're like an assassin, like a Fama or Kolai, you pretty much go like a counter item to like this offlaner as a second item. Just in this very particular matchup, you actually go Basilisk first, so that's sort of like a core damage item for you as Grux, but also a counter item to Sedvark. So against like a Crunch, let's say you're Grux and versus Crunch, you want to build Tainting Bastion, you actually go Tainted Guard second, because you're building to counter your opponent, and a lot of it is depending on what damage do they do. And do they do a lot of healing? Then you do like Tainted Guard, Tainted Bastion. Do they just do damage, there's no healing you have to worry about? Then you just go something like Stone Wall. Like if you're against a Fame-Mao offlane as Grux, Fame-Mao's not really healing, he doesn't have healing in his kit, so going Stonewall second is the best counter item to Fame-Mao as second kind of thing.
Okay.
And as a meta shift and whatnot, your items to build will may be different. It's just right now, tank items are really strong, so that's why I'm recommending to build tank to counter your opponent as a second item.
No, that makes sense.
So after that, so I guess I should give you a quick breakdown. I know I've been kind of commenting as much, but I think I really hit upon the points of the early game. Well, right now you're just purely struggling because you're just really behind, and now what you're trying to do is you're trying to farm and try and catch up, right? So I'm using the opportunity to give you some other insights as we kind of let the gameplay play out. But essentially, what I like to build Grux and Offlane, I like to build them as a kind of almost pure tank in a sense. Do you know why?
No, I don't know why. I'm hoping you tell me though.
Yeah, so essentially Grux, it's in a weird spot. I actually in my tier list I say he needed a rework, and that's because I think his kit, he's supposed to be a fighter, but his kit is not the greatest at being a fighter. Because the big thing about Grux weakness, you probably know it because you play him so much. He has very short range, and the fighter wants to fight, but when you have very limited range and a lot of CC abilities, a lot of escape tools that can just easily just create distance, essentially as soon as someone just stuns you, they can just walk away and you just can't do anything about that. Yeah. And that just feels really bad because you're strictly
against somebody with a double dash like Shinbi.
Yeah, exactly.
Easy escapes.
And that's and that's exactly why I'm saying Grux in a really bad spot, because you think about his matchups in Offlane, he's almost at a disadvantage every matchup. Like against Countess, he gets outscaled. Against Shinbi, he gets outscaled and outspaced. Against a Steel, he just gets really bully, and Steel can always just run away really easily, just stun it and walk away. Citadel, you obviously what's going on right here. Crunch outscales Grux past level 6. You kind of see what I'm getting at right here. Grux, you're kind of looking at a disadvantage, pretty much. So it's weird. Like Grux has some kind of advantage early on, but after a certain point, he loses that advantage. But
take advantage of the advantage.
Yeah, and so even if you do, there's still that inherent issue where you can be really strong against your offlaner, but offlane can decide never to fight you, and you just can't do anything about it because you're kind of strictly a sustained fighter. You need to be in people's faces a long time to get value out of your damage and whatnot. I do like this kind of blink to kill the jungle right there. So this is actually a nice rotation because you do realize it's hard for you to farm white, so I might as well try to see if I can make a rotation, and you actually got some kills right there. So that kind of really help you bring back in the game, making that rotation. I will back immediately, but looks like you're gonna sit here a little bit because Citadel is gonna just keep pushing into your tower. There we go. Because you want to try it back as soon as you can, so you can catch this wave and make sure the Citadel doesn't destroy that tower wave. But as I was saying, the reason why, going back to why I said Grux is best fit as a tank, is because he's just really kind of, I think Grux just really shines the most in just team fights. And the thing about team fights in Grux is, if you don't build the right items, you just immediately get blown up, right? Like, you can probably think about a number of times you try to engage on the team fight, 5 people look at you, and you're just dead 2 seconds later, right? But Grux has a lot of great tools in actually team fights. Like think of your Q, just pulling multiple people in at once, and then you eat them and knock up multiple people at once. Then use your R and you stun people. You kind of see what I mean. Grux actually has tools to be a kind of good core team fighter, but to be a good core team fighter, you actually need to build tank so you can actually tank for your team and be able to really kind of pretty much take all this damage for your teammates in these fights. And I mean, Grux's kit does work for that because you know his passive is once he gets max bleed, he gets army fam. But to get max bleed and get army fam, you need to live it long enough to apply those bleed stacks and then start taking advantage of that army fam and hitting people still, right? So it's all those reasons why I think Grux is actually best built as a tank. And you kind of see that with other like higher MMR Grux players, they'll build them straight up as kind of like a tank. They go core item first, which is Bonesaw or Basilisk against the Citadel matchup. Second item is a tank item. Third item is another tank item. Fourth item, depending on how you're doing the game, you can make that a second core item or just another tank item. Because the kind of good general rule of thumb is for a kind of tank build on like a Crunch, a Grux, is 2 core damage items and the 3 items tank minimum. You can go 1 core item damage and then the rest can be tank, but I like the second item for another core damage item, so you have still have considerable damage in team fights, but you're prioritizing your defenses essentially. Okay. So
now, what are your thoughts on that? Because like this is the one that I've been playing it and I'm enjoying it, but I play it obviously lower MMR, right? So I enjoyed the combination of Bonesaw and Ashbringer. Ashbringer allows me to use my abilities even more because you're with Grux, you're just basic attacking a lot.
Yeah.
Which brings your cooldowns down further. So I like that, but I mean, I'm guessing that's probably not a good core other item to use.
Yes, it's not a bad idea. It's definitely sounds like a fun item to use, but Ashbringer is kind of like strictly like a ADC glass cannon kind of item. Because something like Bonesaw is a cold damage item for Grux, but you look at the stats on it, you get a ton of HP on it. So it ends up working really good in this kind of fireplace side where you're taking a lot of damage. So going like Ash Reno, it's like doesn't give you any defensive values, just give you purely offensive stats. Which, I mean, maybe in a very specifically kind of build, Ash Reno could like not be a bad choice, but I don't think Ash Reno is like the kind of cool item on Grux in my opinion.
Okay.
Alright, so as I was saying, on Grux offlane, your core item is almost always going to be Bonesaw, and your second core damage item is going to be kind of dependent a little bit on what kind of team you're facing. Because let's say you went against a Crunch offlane, but there's a Rampage tank, jungle, and there's like a Richter support. That's when you can go Basilisk like a second kind of cold damage arm to really kind of do great against their team. Universally, if you feel like you're not really threatened by a lot of enemies, you can go Draconum, just a very great item for increasing your healing but increasing your physical power. But other than that, something else like Salvation will actually be really solid because you get some physical power from it, but it's technically a kind of tank item too because you get the HP shield that's based on your maximum HP. And then this kind of tanking build I'm recommending you're going to be burning a lot of HP, so you're going to get a lot of good value out of Salvation.
Okay. What about an item like Dread?
Dread. So that's something I was going to say. So like something Dread is more like an assassin item is the thing. So you look at Dread right here. Oh, sorry, this thing's a little janky. It's not...
The reason I went Dread here is because that mana regeneration, and I think this is before the patch where they buffed his mana regen, and or how much base mana he has. Basically uses mana instantly. So I'm trying to keep mana to keep myself in the fight a little longer.
Yeah.
But it still gives me some stats like the 40 physical, and it also gives me penetration and magic armor.
Yeah.
It kind of does work that way a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think you don't necessarily need Dread even from the mana regen. Because most of the time, like, once you hit the mid to late game, like, kind of point, you're not really concerned about mana as much at that point. Because, like, other game is essentially, like, part of the part where you're gonna feel, like, mana issues the most. But you can still circumvent around that by just making greater, smaller choices of using your mana. Because all you really need to just kind of clear waves is just your R&B, right? The Q is just a kind of bonus to help you clear it even faster. Like there's certain situations where you're like pushing or clearing waves, you don't necessarily need to use a Q, you can just like auto like normal R&B. Now if you try to clear it really fast and rotate for a Faintus, then yeah, you Q it. But you see right here, you use your Q R&B, like you don't run out of mana as quickly as you think you do. It's only when you stay out of standard time and you keep using Q on BE, Q on BE. You're gonna go through your mana pretty quickly at that point.
Okay.
So it really depends on the kind of champion you're playing. Like even Crunch, like he's the one that really goes his mana pretty fast. But I just kind of learned just to play around it, and I feel like I know only mana items to make Crunch work kind of thing, right? So I don't want you to think you need Dread, because you don't actually need Dread, especially on the Grux, because Dread, like I said, is kind of like a pure assassin item, and going a kind of pure attack item on Grux is not necessarily the best, because your biggest weakness is just your susceptibility to getting blown up and 100 really fast. That's kind of why you prioritize items to give you a healthy mix of physical power and doing damage past it, but also making sure you're still keeping up with defensive stats. So something like Bonesaw is the best all-in-one item for Grux. Draconum, has physical armor in it, because your healing, salvation, HP, physical power. Augmentation even has like some HP in it and whatnot. So augmentation is another great item you can go as a second core item on Grux. Because it works really great actually with the ultimate. You can get the movement speed and whatnot. So I'm not really commenting too much on what's going on, because at this point your teammate Soul just kind of fell behind hard. I think you mainly started to struggle a bit, your jungler was struggling. So like I could maybe try to give you a little insight where you could have done better, but you're just working against like a ton of odds already at that point, right?
Right. Yep. No, and that's fine. Like, you know, early game, if I work on the stuff that you give me the points on the early game, that's gonna help me with my mid to late game anyways. And this game
Yeah, it's
may
like,
not be in this situation it is now.
yeah, I mean, you can also, it's not 100% your fault why your team was struggling this game. Like, obviously, your jungler was struggling, so like, it just means that by you knowing how to be able to perform consistently well and stay relevant, you can make it easier on your team burden, right?
For sure.
Because the only one on your team that's actually pretty strong is Windu on Murdoch. But there's only so much a lone Murdoch can do against like these kind of stat lines from the enemy team, right?
Yeah, because if I do well in solo lane, then the jungler doesn't have to come over so often to try to help me out, and then also the Sev doesn't get to go invade our jungle's red, a couple times that he did that, so it doesn't like starve him. So yeah, there are a couple things that I know I'm not the only reason, but I can definitely help.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, so that's why I was focusing so much on the early game. It's because I feel like you could have a much easier time if you were more like even with Sevlog or more relevant match. Because I think, let's say instead of like 2-6 175, you play that early game a lot better. You could be 3 and 4 and 200 CS, and that means that's like another item right there. That's a fourth item, and you're almost full build at that point, right? And I think having more items, kind of fixing this build a little bit to make it so that it benefits your team more. Because like at this point you're behind. That's why I consider tank Grux actually work really good too, because you're just always going to be great in team fights if you build more on the tankier side. With this build path, you're just going to get blown up way too easily and not really be able to help heal for like your ADC, for example.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of about the end of the game. I think I touched upon on all the major points. Was there anything else you want me to kind of clarify or go over really quick?
No, that was all good pointers.
Alright then, so I think we're just gonna kind of end on that note. So I hope you guys do enjoy this video, and let me know down in the comments if you guys want to keep seeing more VODs. Definitely hit me up on Discord if you want to see more of this. If you want to get a chance for me to also kind of go over you guys' footage and whatnot. So Bearded Wolverine, where can we find you? Because you're also a content creator for Predecessor. I want to give a shout out to you for providing me this really awesome game to go over and help you and other people out.
Oh, well, thank you. You can find me, TheBeardedWolverine, on Twitch, on YouTube, and on Twitter. It's the same as my in-game there, T_B_Wolverine. But that's where I'm at. And obviously Tuesday nights we do the podcast. So
Actually, yeah.
my live. So.
And definitely you can send me your.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I'm glad I'm able to help out, but thank you for coming out and being able to allow me to file review, because I know some people don't like the idea of their file review being dissected, especially if it's going out in public. But I think because like a lot of people are kind of like where you're at. Well, they're kind of playing the game a lot, but they do want to try to see if they can get better with some aspects here and there. Because you can learn a lot, obviously, by watching good players play, but that doesn't necessarily fix the problems that you're kind of doing right, because you need someone to point them out sometimes, so you can realize what you can work on, and once you do realize what you need to work on, that's when you can really start to make big improvements, right? So I do appreciate your time and allow me to kind of go over this file with you.
Oh, definitely.
Alright, but on that note, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next podcast, I guess. Peace.